Hi, my name is Jerry Wise. I'm a therapist at Family Tree Counseling Associates in Carmel, Indiana, north of Indianapolis. And today's video is entitled Codependency-Living Life on a Pendulum. As a codependency expert, I provide my clients with knowledge and insight about how to live a codependent-free life. And this video is about one of the concepts of mine involving the pendulum effect of codependency. I believe that a life of codependency is a life spent swinging back and forth between over-closeness or enmeshment over here and distance and cutoff clear over here. So if we think of relationship life as being like a compass, you've seen one of those compasses in school, and you have the 0 degrees over to 180 degrees, and then 90 degrees is in the middle. We swing back and forth between 0 degrees and 180 degrees. From one side, the pendulum swings to the other. And this is classic for those of us who suffer from and experience codependency. The reason why the codependent does this swing is because we lack a sense of self. We lack self-esteem, self-awareness, self-worth, a good self-image. And because we lack all of that selfness that's so important, I don't mean selfishness, I mean selfness. Because selfness is living a life at the 90-degree mark, living a life in the middle. Because we don't have that sense of self, we find ourselves ping-ponging back and forth between 0 degrees of enmeshment, over-closeness, fusion, to all the way to the other side, which is cut off, too much separateness. There's always a push and pull for us to push us to one side or pull us to the other side of this compass that is 180 degrees, to push us up to one end or to push us up to the other. And in that push and pull, we don't have a strong enough sense of self that we find ourselves going to the extremes and have a very difficult landing and keeping ourselves centered at the 90-degree mark, which is in the middle. Enmeshment or emotional fusion is the symptom. The lack of self is the problem. We learn very early in life to jump on the pendulum and ride it as we relate to others. Our lack of self begins in our family of origin. That's where we learn these dysfunctional behaviors. That's where we continue to experience the emotional forces that are still within us from our family of origin, and that we still experience today as adults. Let me talk about this pendulum again. The pendulum swings from one side to the other. However, there are two sides, and of course the middle is where we want to land, is the healthiest place to land. But those two extremes are actually two sides of the same coin. The same coin is fusion. Either we enmesh because of fusion, or we cut off because of fusion. If someone is cut off from someone, then I know there's too much enmeshment and too much fusion. If someone is enmeshed with someone or codependent, then I know there's too much fusion also. So fusion is a problem on either end. And maturity is about gaining more sense of self, less fusion, and more distinctness and differentness for ourselves, and having a healthy separateness as well as connectedness. Let me give you an example. When I was a pastor, I hungered for connectedness and closeness and intimacy and self-worth. I would find myself choosing to be with people who could also fuse and join me in that very over-close relationship. I needed that, and I wanted that. My brokenness and lack of self and lack of self-connectedness got acted out in a search for and a requirement of relationship enmeshment. And this is the 0 degree side. Clear over here on this side. I was looking for that connectedness. And I thought if I could just fuse with enough people, if I could just fuse or enmesh with others, then I would be happy, be loved, be fulfilled, be cared about, and people wouldn't leave me because we would be over close. Any relationship is, by nature, unstable. Well, the problem is, as you probably have realized by now, relationships are filled with situations in which things are not calm. There may be hurt, there may be lots of imperfections, there may be conflicts. All relationships are flawed. All relationships are intense at times. They experience conflict, disagreements, and even pain. But my codependency and lack of self wanted to avoid all of this. So I developed over close and enmeshed relationships. I thought if we were enmeshed enough or over close enough, too connected enough, then none of that would happen. Well, relationships tend to always kind of be great at the beginning, especially enmeshed ones. Just like the honeymoon phase of a marriage or dating, I over-idealize the goodness and the positive sides of other people. I only wanted to see the good in people and tended to be naive about people and relationships. Also naive about myself. There was a couple in the church when I was pastoring that I wanted to have a close relationship with. We became very close, in fact over close, sharing everything in our lives, and this relationship with this couple had a very multi-layered relationship. I was their pastor, I was friends, I was their counselor, I was their administrator, I was even their neighbor. I was all of this to them, and they were all of these things to me. Then reality set in. Conflicts arose. People were imperfect. People did not meet my needs or my neediness. Needs and neediness are two different things. I want to point that out. And they didn't meet my needs like I wanted them to. They failed me. They disagreed with me. They, out of their immaturity, would even talk negative about me to other people or other parishioners. And at times, they even acted like they liked other people more than me, which of course injured my fragile ego and injured my sense of self, which had very low self-esteem. My closeness fantasy, which is codependency, it was shattered. So what do we codependents do next? If we're over close and we're over connected, then the next thing we do is blow apart and we cut off. I stopped paying attention to them, stopped calling them, talked about them with others, overemphasized their weaknesses and imperfections, and actually at times even wanted them to hurt like I felt they were hurting me. That was my immaturity, my codependency. Now I was in a cut-off position with them, which is not the 0 position over here, but all the way over to the 180 degree mark over here, the 180 degree change, which is the cutoff position. But the cutoff position was for the same reason as the 0 degree position, because I wanted to be over close. And because I couldn't handle conflict or intimacy or closeness or fear of abandonment or all of the other problems that I experienced, that I thought I could resolve or help myself or protect myself by going into a cutoff position. And then that will save me. If I just cut off from them and don't like them anymore, then I don't have to deal with them anymore. But actually, as we know, that's just a fantasy. And when people come and tell me, yes, they hurt me really bad, but I just never think about that anymore. Well, that tells me they haven't resolved it. They've just stuffed it and pushed it down. They've just gone into a cutoff mode. They haven't healed from it. So then what? Now that we're in a cutoff position with this couple in the family, in the church, this family in the church, what do codependents do next? Well, we made up, as good Christians should do, as good religious people should do. We should make up, say we're sorry, and then we start the painful process all over again. And this gets repeated over and over and over again. I did this time and time again, never knowing how to stop the pendulum, never knowing what made the pendulum exist in my life. I had no knowledge of a healthy paradigm or a good emotional map for how to view myself and how to view relationships. My map was entitled The Map of Neediness and Low Self-Worth and Yearning for Love. Map is what it was. In short, the lack of self-differentiation is the reason why the pendulum exists. And that's what we learn when we learn more about family systems and when we learn how relationships work. Knowing there are two forces at work in a relationship, and those two forces are called togetherness and separateness, and they're always working all of the time. And how you manage those two forces will determine whether you can stay in the 90-degree mark or whether you go to 180 or to the 0 mark. So understanding how those two forces are at work in your life. So what does a non-swinging or non-pendulum swinging relationship look like? What does it feel like? I needed a new map or a new paradigm. I needed therapy. I needed a Bowen Family Systems view or knowledge of relationships and how they work, because I didn't know. And that was the new map that I needed. The more intense a relationship gets, the more we feel compelled to swing from 0 to 180. So how do I keep myself calm and the relationship calmer so I can act in a more mature adult 90-degree way, which is also less reactive? I needed to see myself living in a relationship system which included my family of origin, my current relationships, and my extended relationships and work relationships, and that they all worked the same because they all had one thing in common: me. I needed to learn to love and care about the little Jerry who is inside of me. I needed to practice staying as close to the 90-degree mark as possible, staying connected while not losing myself, being myself while not disconnecting. I did not know one could even see it, let alone learn how to do it. I had to take responsibility for my own enmeshment, my own fusion, and my own cutoff. While forces are at work in all relationships to pull you to over closeness and to push you to cutoff, it's up to you to remain centered and stay at the 90-degree mark. So if you want to heal abandonment, learn to not abandon yourself. Then you will have fewer feelings of abandonment. If you want to learn how to have less shame, be less shaming to yourself, and then you will be less shaming to others and also experience less shame. If we stop abandoning ourselves through enmeshment and cutoff, if we stop hurting ourselves by getting help and asking for help, if we stop shaming ourselves and learn self-care, then the 90-degree place is easier to maintain. It feels much safer, much more centered, much more healthy, much more loving, and more freeing to ourselves and to others. If you want to learn more, contact me at 317-919-6264 or the website www.familytreecounseling.com. I hope you'll join our channel on YouTube. And for out-of-area clients, I can provide life coaching and marital coaching via FaceTime and Skype. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day.